Our first festival, I had the delightful experience of meeting her at the hotel and introducing her to the town of Jonesboro. She is an Egyptian woman, born in Egypt and still Egypt in her soul. She said, even if I lived on the moon, I would still be Egyptian. And she went on to describe the Nile and the trees and the area in which she lives, in which her heart is, in which her imagination was born and thrives. And I had the honor of showing her this 300-year-old town, those 300-year-old bricks. She has come from a place where the pyramids have been for more than 30 years, for a very long time. And we had a delightful conversation. She's an amazing person. And we talked about Mark Twain. Did Mark Twain come from Tennessee? And she tested my knowledge of my own culture in a very gentle and erudite way. She has been referred to as a plutôt pluridisciplinaire, very multidisciplinary. She is a scholar, she is a storyteller, she is a mover, she is a dancer. She is a wonderful person, and I really had a great time with her, and it was a great honor to show her the thing. The thing. And there's a tent, and oh, here's a tent with 2,000 seats. And oh, she said, oh yes, I've been in a tent with thousands of seats in Rotterdam. She's been all over the world. She's worked all over the world. It's really an honor for me to invite her onto the stage in half a second. She was asked in this interview whether or not there was such a thing as a classic storyteller. And her answer was, no, the classic storyteller in their own time was modern. And so will you welcome with me a modern classic, Chirine al-Sanfari.
I have to look at you because you are telling me with your eyes which story you want to hear. There was a man named Khalifa. Khalifa is ugly. Khalifa is filthy. Khalifa is boring. Khalifa is useless. He doesn't know how to use his hands, and he doesn't even have any wit. He is just a stupid bum. This is what people say about him. He's ugly. He doesn't know what to do with his hands. He doesn't know anything. He's boring. He's poor, very poor. He's useless. And when they see him, they point at him. They throw stones and fruit at him, rotten fruit, and some rich people even spit at him because his face is so distorted. So Khalifa hides in the slums of Egypt by the river Nile, not where the palaces are, nor the villas, not where the beautiful fields with the gardens are, no. He goes to the filthy part of the city, where rich people throw away their garbage and their trash just to get it out of their sight. This is where he lives. He stays there and he looks for things to just eat or rags to wear. And whenever he goes to the markets and the city, people point at him and spit at him and throw their stones and their rotten fruit at his face. So he runs back to his slum that he calls home and hides in his trash and garbage. And one day, Khalifa, poor Khalifa, he found in the middle of the litter there in his slum that he calls home, he found a fishing net. Yes, a brand new fishing net. It was perfect, and it was even clean in spite of all the trash around. He thought, if God sends me a fishing net, it means I must be a fisherman without knowing it. And there was Khalifa, carrying the fishing net on his shoulder and rushing to the river Nile and casting his net. He didn't even wait for the net to settle. He didn't even wait for the net to reach down. He started pulling the net, and as he was pulling the net, he was thinking, if I have one fish or two, I'm gonna grill them and eat them, but if I have more, I'll go to the market and sell them. And he looked inside of his fishing net, and there was a monkey. It was not even wet. It was skinny and filthy, hunchbacked and one-eyed, and it looked at him as if it was making fun of him. And Khalifa looked at that monkey, and he said, even the waters of the Nile reject me. Even the fish hides when I fish. That monkey is making fun of me. That monkey is my miserable destiny. And Khalifa decided to take the monkey, to tie it to a tree, to pick a rod, and to beat up that donkey, to relieve his frustration. Years of frustration, years of people making fun of him, years of filth and dirt, and when he finds at last a fishing net and thinks himself a fisherman, this is what he gets. He was entitled to beat the hell out of the creature, but as Khalifa was lifting his arm, the monkey whispered, sorry, you won't be able to translate that one. The monkey whispered, استنى شوية شوية عليا. حلمك شوية عليا. مستعجل على ايه ياض استنى وشوف اللي هيجرالك. Wait and see. Do not hit me now. You will have plenty of time to enjoy that. But before, cast your fishing net again and fish. And Khalifa, who was not that fond of harming God's creatures, he let go of his rod and he picked the fishing net and he obeyed the monkey. So if you ever fish a monkey, just obey, bow your head and say yes to whatever the creature says. Khalifa cast the fishing net. And the fishing net sank down, and Khalifa gathered the net. He was sure that time he would have fish to sell, but when he looked at the fishing net, it is another monkey that he found. What is happening? Did God transform all the fish into monkeys? Am I gonna fish an entire family, mother, father, ancestors, and grandchildren? The monkey was neither handsome nor ugly. It was just a monkey. It was dry, completely dry, as if it had never been in the waters of the river. And it was gentle and quite happy. smiling. And Khalifa thought, that wretched creature is making fun of me. I am going to tie it next to his wretched brother, and I'm gonna beat the life out of them. And he picked a rod, and he was ready to beat, to let go of years of frustration, when suddenly the two monkeys whispered, hey, hey. شوية شوية علينا ياض ما تستعجلش قوي كده ارمي الشبكة واصطاد مرة تالتة وشوف هيجرالك ايه Well, Khalifa was not fond of harming God's creatures, so he let go of the rod, he picked the fishing net and he threw it in the waters, and the fishing net just by itself expanded in the waters of the Nile until it seemed to cover the shimmering surface of the water, and then it started sinking and sinking as if it had a mind of its own. And then Khalifa pulled the fishing net. And he pulled and pulled and pulled the fishing net, and when he looked inside that time, he was ready for an elephant, a giraffe, a little lion, whatever the waters would offer him. It was a monkey. But that monkey was a monkey. A beautiful behind, red and round like farmers' tomatoes. Eyelashes, teasing the life out of Khalifa, and lovely raspberry mouth. It was wearing earrings, gold and diamond, and a lovely little vest made of blue velvet embroidered in gold and silver, something you have never seen. It was wearing silken trousers, and it swayed and danced and looked at Khalifa with teasing eyes. Khalifa thought, even monkeys are richer than I am, better dressed. They have more luck than me. Destiny is making a fool out of a human being. I'm gonna beat the life out of these three brothers until their last breath. And he took the monkey and he tied the monkey next to his brothers, and he picked two rods and he lifted his arms, and suddenly he heard, hey, hey, hey. ما تتصربعش قوي كده. ارمي الشبكة مرة تالتة وشوف البحر هيجيب لك ايه. Well, it was a habit by now to obey two monkeys. So he let go of the rod and he picked the fishing net and he cast the fishing net, and the fishing net expanded and expanded more and more until it seemed to cover the river Nile. And then it sank and sank and sank, and there was Khalifa gathering the fishing net and pulling it, and the net was heavy. It was so heavy, but he didn't dare imagine what might be inside. He pulled it and pulled it on the shores of the river, and when he looked inside, ladies and gentlemen, there was a fish. How extraordinary. He fished a fish. This is the miracle of stories. But it was not like any fish. It was huge, and it was plump, and it was fresh, like it has never been fished, like it was still in the water, like it was ready to jump back in and back out and back in 1,000 times without getting tired or fluttered or anything. And he heard the third monkey whisper gently, Khalifa, Khalifa. Shahbandar al-Togar, the richest merchant of Cairo, is today marrying his dear daughter. He is expecting as many guests as in the library tent in Jonesboro, as many guests, and he would be so proud to offer his guests the flesh of that fish that can nourish at least 10,000 hungry stomachs. Go and sell your fish. And there was Khalifa carrying the fish on his shoulder and happily walking to Cairo, to the city, to the market, to Shahbandar al-Togar, the richest merchant, when suddenly he heard the third monkey say, hey, Khalifa, wait. So Khalifa froze. And the third monkey said, do not take money as payment. Do not. Just ask Shahbandar al-Togar to exchange the fish for a few words that he will have to repeat after you. Listen, Khalifa, listen and learn. Tell him to repeat after you. I pay for your catch of the day with my written destiny. And Khalifa kept murmuring the words, I pay for your catch of the day with my written destiny, without understanding anything. But did it matter? Anyway, that was an adventure, and even if he wasn't allowed to take money, he would go through with it. And he walked and walked. He was weaving his way through the market streets, and he reached the shop of Shahbandar al-Togar. He entered the shop. The man was sitting on the floor, cross-legged, surrounded by his servants on silken carpets. Khalifa put the heavy fish in front of Shahbandar al-Togar. Shahbandar al-Togar looked at his fish, and the eyes started to twinkle like stars. He was ready to grab the fish and to bring out a few gold coins to give them to this miserable creature. Everybody was making fun of him already and saying, get him out of here because your shop will get dirty. Khalifa said, I don't need your money. And when Khalifa said, I don't need your money, everybody started giggling and laughing and pointing at him and saying, what do you mean you don't need money? Look at you, you ugly, filthy, and so poor, rummaging through garbage, living in trash and slums. You do need us, and you do need our money. Take it. And all of them, they grabbed a few dirty coins and started throwing them at Khalifa. But Khalifa said no. And Shahbandar al-Togar, he lifted his hand and said, let him speak. I would like you to repeat after me. You remember the sentence? So help me. Pay with my written destiny. And Shahbandar al-Togar repeated, I, for your catch of the day, pay with my written destiny. And everybody started to giggle and repeat and make fun. But Khalifa, he just walked out proudly. He let them throw things at him. He let them spit at him. He let the children hang to his jalabeya and pull it. And then he reached the edge of the city, and he could see the river Nile and the palm trees and the pyramids and the Sphinx beyond the horizon line. And he turned right because that's where he had to go to his slums. But as he was walking, he felt lighter and lighter. And suddenly his head was covered with a turban in silk, green and yellow with white feathers and diamond. And suddenly his tattered, dirty jalabia was a robe, a wonderful robe of honor like a prince, made of silk embroidered. And there he looked at his dirty feet, and they were clean, perfectly clean. And as he marveled at his feet for the first time so clean, appeared a lovely pair of babouches, you know, these lovely slippers that come from Morocco. They were pointy and yellow and perfect, handcrafted. And when he reached his slums, no filth, no trash. It was a palace by the river Nile, and a fishing boat with fishermen who were his workers, the fishermen that would go out to the river for him. And when he started climbing up the stairs of the palace, for he knew it was his home, the door opened instantly, and there was a beautiful woman, not young, no, she was of his age, perfectly matched. Not skinny and slim and tall, no, she was plump and lovely, a real woman, not a fairy tale princess. She had everything in every place where it should be, nothing missing. And he closed the door behind them, because that's what you should do. So let's close the door behind them too. There was a gardener who was completely in love with his garden. He did not like to do anything but spend time on his own in his garden. He didn't have friends, he didn't care for friends, he had driven away all the people that might have liked him, his family. He just wanted to be with his plants and his flowers and his birds. He would spend the entire day taking care of the plants, and he would take a nap at noon when the sun is striking hard. And that gardener had a secret friend. A friend that was his friend, yet he didn't know that that friend was his friend. Have you ever had a friend like that? That friend was a bear, a beautiful she-bear who was madly in love with the gardener. So she spent time hiding in the woods, looking inside the garden, spying on the gardener, and suddenly noticed that the gardener never noticed her, so she came closer and closer and closer. She came so close to the gardener, who never noticed her, that she started to help him, and yet he didn't notice. She would give him his tools, give him the water, you know, and there they were, working together, yet the gardener didn't know. One day, the gardener was lying in his garden, sleeping at noon, and there was a fly, a big blue summer fly, you know them? They're huge, and they keep bzzz, and they always head for your nose, or your eyes, or your mouth, or your ears. And the bear was really upset, because usually she took a big leaf and she fanned gently the gardener, who never noticed but who slept deeper because there was this nice breeze that caressed his face. But that fly, she was going bzzz, and the gardener was really getting, he was asleep, but the bear was really getting angry, and it started chasing away the fly, but the fly was coming back, and the bear was really, really upset, because the fly would wake up the gardener. That suddenly the fly landed on the nose, and the bear was so angry that it lifted its paw and went boing. And I'm sorry about that story, but I use it to remind myself that it's much better to have clever enemies than stupid friends. Remember that. Remember that when you go and cast your votes, huh?
Chirine Ansary.